What's happening, YouTube? It's Simon466cards, and this is a follow-up video to my video about the Nationals' expenses in their tax filings with the IRS. After I made the video, it got around to quite a few people in the hobby, it seems like. The Sports Cards Nonsense podcast had me on as a guest to talk about my video, so thanks to Mike and Jesse for having me on. It was a lot of fun to be a guest on their podcast. And a few other people have made videos about it. People have commented on it, and so to anybody who's watched the video or commented, thank you for that. And in the various videos that have been made, and also mine, there have been some theories as to what is actually happening with that national expense line item and why it has grown so much and why it changed from management to trade show expense. So I took the three best theories that I found and just examined them a little bit further and that's what we're going to do today. So the first one I saw a couple of places is from Ziggy No, and it's from Dan the Cardman. Dan the Cardman actually created a reaction video talking about my video, so thanks to him for doing that. Really appreciate it. And it was a well done video. I will link to it in the description below. And so his theory and Ziggy's theory is that, are they paying influencers, right? I will be honest, I had not thought of that. That is a new school idea in terms of advertising and marketing. And so I'm like, oh, it could actually be valid. Like, I had not thought of it, just straight up being honest. And so the first thing to look at is what the expenses looked like by year and by category. And so my first thought was that if you're paying influencers, shouldn't they be advertising and promotion? But Dan, we had a little bit of an exchange. He's an accountant by trade, and he said no, for whatever reasons, it could actually be trade show expense. So I will fully defer to him. He's the expert. I'm not. So I'll say that maybe there's a reason why it doesn't fall under advertising and promotion. So go with Dan on that one. But here's the thing. Influencers in the hobby specifically, they weren't a thing until after the pandemic, right? There were no influencers in 2017, 2018, 2019. But when you look at the management and then the trade show expense, you'll see that it already started increasing in 2016, 17, 18, 19. By the time we hit 2018 and 2019, the management expense compared to the trade show expense, it had basically doubled. So if you're paying influencers, what influencers are you actually paying in 2018 and 2019? They didn't exist. So that's my main struggle with this theory. Moving on. Who are these influencers that are actually being paid to show up if this is actually happening? So I was at the show in Chicago the Friday and the Saturday, and I went to the trade night. A lot of fun. Had a great time. Like, I actually love the National, don't get me wrong, despite what you might think from the video I made. I thoroughly enjoyed my experience there. Anyways, going back to this, Gary Vee was there, but that guy's rich. Like, he is rich. You don't need to pay him to show up. It's not going to make a dent in his wallet, in his bank account. Like, it's like a rounding error to him. So that's not going to convince him to show up, to pay him. And then besides him, I actually didn't see a lot of non-card influencers at the show, holding their cameras around and doing that whole social media thing. And I walked the whole show floor, and Friday and Saturday, I didn't see any non-card people. I saw a lot of card people there, but I mean, to be blunt, it'd be stupid for the National to pay card influencers money to show up at the biggest card show, because they're going to show up there anyways. They're going to make their content. That's how they make money. They're going to do their influencer thing, whatever that is. You don't need to pay them to show up. They're going to do that by themselves and bring you the attention, right? So if they're paying influencers, I'm not sure who exactly these people are that they're paying. And then lastly, this is more of a, does this make sense from a logic perspective? So when we think about marketing by paying influencers, it's a very new way of doing things, right? It's very new school, innovative. It is not at all what you would have done 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago, obviously, but even in the last 5 years, it's just something that it's a new thing that's come up, right? And so to think of this idea, to come up with this idea, you'd have to be pretty like, oh yeah, I'm willing to try new things and take some risks with our marketing strategy. But I want you to keep in mind that this is the same group of people that chose Atlantic City as the national host location last year, 2022. I don't think it's actually possible for a group of people to say, let's try new things and pay some social media influencers to come to the national. And then also say, you know what is a good location for the national? Atlantic City. Yeah, we should definitely put that among the nominated cities. That's where it's at. That's the new school idea. The cognitive dissonance there is too much for me to think that the same group of people is thinking these two things. So I don't think paying influencers is what's happening here, but I think the strongest evidence is that the trade show expense had already started ballooning upwards well before the pandemic, when a lot of influencers popped up in the hobby. So that's theory number one. Theory number two is this person here actually commented on Dan the Card Man's video, saying that there were new tax laws in place as of 2016. Congress passed them, and so maybe that's why the expense line item changed from management up until 2015 to trade show expense starting in 2016, right? And that's when it really started to accelerate upwards. And it's just like a accounting thing that an accountant told them to abide by the new tax laws. And so, you know what? I said, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like, at first blush, I don't know what the tax laws are, but maybe for whatever reason, trade shows now had to just list it under trade show expense. But I said, you know what? Let's look at other trade shows, right? Because if we look at, if you look at the national, right? And I'm now on their tax summary page, for lack of a better phrase. Here's a mission to promote trade shows for interested sportsmen memorabilia. So they were clearly, obviously, a trade show. So what I did is I went to the website and I looked up trade show. You can see here, and I looked up trade show to see and look for organizations that are nonprofits that are roughly in the ballpark of what the national is. So, a few million in revenue, $1 million or $2 million in assets. So literally the first two that I found, and you can do this for yourself, maybe two other organizations show up. But for me, the two that showed up were the Mid-Atlantic Nursery Trade Show with revenue of $2.5 million and assets a little over $3 million. And the next one is the United States Air and Trade Show with revenue of just under $3 million, assets in the $1.5 million range. And I'm pretty sure I will be the first video about the hobby that is going to talk about the Mid-Atlantic Nursery Trade Show. But here we are. Come for this ride. Come join me. So here I switched to the IRS website because this website was being a little bit finicky, but it's the same stuff. It's still the Form 990. And when you click on it, here's what it looks like. You can see here, this is the 2019 form, which is well past when that tax law change happened, right? That was 2015, 2016. This is 3 years after that was implemented. So whatever change that was forced on nonprofits and how they account for things should apply here. See here, this is the Mid-Atlantic Nursery Trade Show. If I scroll down to page 10, which is where expenses are generally from what I've noticed when looking at tax documents, you can see here that the Mid-Atlantic Nursery, whatever this thing is, has $353,000 for an management expense line item. So there's clearly not a limitation on using management as an expense item for this nonprofit that is a trade show. Okay, but maybe this is lucky. So let's go to the second one. Let's go to the United States Air and Trade Show. Let's again, this is, you can see here, this is a 2020 form, United States Air and Trade Show. If we scroll down to page 10, and what do we see here? Under total expenses, management, line item 11A, management, $434,000. So this trade show also was okay to have a very significant number under management. So literally the first two non-for-profits that are in roughly the ballpark, the size of the national, still have an expense line item called management. So there doesn't seem to be, and they're both trade shows, so there doesn't seem to be a rule, a law, an accounting law in place to prevent management expense as a line item for a non-for-profit trade show, because I just showed you the first two that I looked up did not have that limitation. So I'm kind of saying this is probably not true, because, and feel free to do your own research, but I literally, the first two I looked up did not have this problem. So I'm thinking that whatever tax laws are in place, this does not apply. So that's theory number 2, throwing that one out the window as well. Theory number 3, straightforward. They're clearly paying the board members and key staff a lot more money. That's not illegal, yada, yada, yada. You can see this James person commented on my video. Let's then go back to the Nationals Form 990s, the tax filing. Here it is, right? National Sports Collectors. What I guess I didn't explain to everybody is I only included the tax line items that were not zero, because why waste a bunch of space and time with a bunch of stuff that's zero? But again, if you go down to page 10 here, and page 10 again is generally statement of functional expenses, there actually are line items for paying employees. So you can see here, line item 5, compensation of current officers, directors, trustees, and key employees, $0. Compensation not included above to disqualified persons and persons described in section 495, whatever, $0. Other salaries and wages, 0. So like this person said, it's okay to pay people, and I am not begrudging them if they're getting paid. But if they are getting paid, they're not stating it in the sections of their tax filings that they should. Because there is a full section here talking about salaries and compensation and benefits, and you can see here it is 00000. So if they are getting paid, why aren't they putting it in the compensation section? That's where it should be. Again, if they're getting paid, just put it where it should be in the tax filing. So that's why I don't think this is true either. I actually don't think the board members are getting paid. And in terms of key staff, right? You say here key staff are getting paid. I got news for you. At the very beginning of this filing, literally at the top, summary, the number of individuals employed in calendar year 2021 is actually 0. And this is the case for basically all the years if you look into it. They have 0 employees. They have roughly 4 voting members of the governing body. You can see here it's 4. And that's it. So there are actually no there is no CEO. There is no key staff members. It's just the management company that runs the thing. And so this, I don't think theory number 3 is true either. And that's kind of the video. Let me know your thoughts and comments of what I've shown you here. If I'm missing something, if I've drawn the wrong conclusion for these theories. But to me, these 3 theories, while they were by far good ones and the best ones that I saw, I don't think that's what's happening here. And I actually don't think the board members are getting paid a bunch of money and they're hiding it in this trade show expense. I actually don't believe that. What is happening? I mean, let me know in the comments. Your guess is as good as mine. But that's the whole video. Enough of talking about the tax filings. They're spending a lot of money on this trade show expense. I want to talk about how you would market the National if you had $1 million or $2 million. How would you do it? What would you do? That'll be my next video. So I'm going to release that in a few days. But that's it for this video. Would love to hear your comments on the theories that we talked about here. And as always, thank you for listening and watching, and I will talk to you all soon. Cheers.